lot of leaders in our space kind of being self-deprecating and kind of making fun of themselves, and that people like that, because it gets people out of the old boys club, and kind of makes things feel a little bit more familiar. So I definitely see it working in my industry, at least.
I definitely don't see it working in mine.
Welcome to The Marketer. In this episode, we discuss viral content and how your brand can stand out in the digital crowd. We're joined by experts Sarah Lero, Michael Ashford, Travis Kernett, and Jennifer Topper. Check out my guest contact information and bios in the summary below, and be sure to follow this channel for more marketing insights. So welcome, everybody. It's really awesome to have you on this edition of The Marketer. Thank you for joining me. Today's going to be a really fantastic discussion for everybody that's listening. We're going to talk about going viral by design and how you can work with your content to make sure that you get maximum exposure. I'd love to hear some examples of a brand that successfully capitalized on social media. What made that particular campaign effective for that brand? Travis, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so probably one brand that sticks out to me the most on social media is Wendy's, their Twitter account. They have really utilized humor in pretty much all that they do. They like to make fun of their competition. They like to make fun of themselves as well. So, that's I think pretty much everybody I follow on X is also following Wendy's just for the humor. And so, I think that's definitely in today's marketplace. I mean, you watch commercials on TV. It's just people like to put humor into things.
For sure.
I'm not that good at humor. So, what I've tried to do is just really make everything that we do, whether it be for my own personal brand or my company's brand, really just inject personality into everything. Pretty much we do 90% of it is personality and 10% of it's product. That's worked for us so far. We've gotten a lot of traction, a lot of organic growth. Have spent no time into SEO or
Sure.
PPC or anything, and kind of rocketed over our competition. So yeah, just showing the personality behind the brand rather than just pitching products.
Is to follow up on that, Travis, for one, I love the Wendy's commercials too. They're fantastic these days. The Santa Claus one I thought was particularly funny, with the guy going and tugging on his beard. It's real. But I totally agree with you from a humor standpoint. I work a lot with LinkedIn. Met all of you guys on LinkedIn, which is awesome.
Yep.
I find that humor works very well in social content on LinkedIn as well, just because it's different from the norm. On the channel, obviously humor works on commercials and stuff like that. Have you guys seen humor from a strategy standpoint across the channels that you're working with be consistent in its effectiveness?
Is that another one to me?
Feel free, and then the rest of
Or
you can
anybody.
jump into it.
It's pretty much. So I'm in quick short. I'm in telecommunications, and so that aspect is very suit and tie. But the brands that have kind of probably just since end of 2022 and all of 2023, the ones that have really started to stand out, gain more market share, are the ones, like I said, putting more personality behind it, and then putting more humor. You have a lot of leaders in our space kind of being self-deprecating and kind of making fun of themselves, and that people like that, because it gets people out of the old boys club, and kind of makes things feel a little bit more familiar. So I definitely see it working in my industry, at least.
I definitely don't see it working in mine. I mean, I love the idea of personality and humor in social media. But I work at a law firm. I'm not even going to say a conservative law firm, because we all are. I mean, even, aggressive personal injury law firms where you see banners on the side of a highway, like, they can't put humor in. If you're too figurative in any sort of a campaign, it can be construed as professionally irresponsible, against legal ethics, breaking the legal version of the Hippocratic Oath. So we have to be so cautious. And as a marketer, you can only imagine. I've got business development and marketing in my DNA, but I've been in law firms for 20 years. So calibrating how you're able to put personality in and translate that into brand effectiveness without being funny, without being snide, without being ironic. Like, we can't even be ironic. Like, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
So we have to be really targeted, really smart, really thoughtful, and constantly reinvent how we put our brand out on social media. And really, I'm talking about LinkedIn, and to a much limited extent Twitter. The bigger firms really just don't do Twitter the way small firms or independent practitioners do. That's a completely different vibe. And they can have conversations, they can engage in all kinds of chat and make comments, but you'll never see like an AmLaw 200 law firm engaging that way on Twitter or even on LinkedIn. You may see some independent lawyers on LinkedIn engage, but certainly not on behalf of their firms.
I think that's great insight, Jen. Not every company can just put things, when we're talking about viral content, not every company can do things that has a high degree of virality just because of the type of content that it is, right? Not everybody can use cat videos that are funny, and apply that to something else, to your point, with audience. And sometimes, a lot of companies just have regulations. So, Michael and Sarah, with your guys' target market, what are you doing to get in front of the most amount of people? Has there been any strategies that has worked well for you? Michael, why don't you start?
Do you mind if I go back real quick to address some of the things that has already been said? So one of the things that I think I see a lot is a lot of people in marketing asking the question, could we? And not enough people asking, should we? And so you get things like a lot of brands right now, as we're recording this on January 10th, 2024, trying to capitalize on social media and meme culture with, for instance, the Selena Gomez and Taylor Swift kind of conversation at, I believe, the Golden Globe Awards. And so they try to force some quippy, snippy thing about their brand into this meme that's going around the internet, whether you're on X or whether you're on Instagram or what have you. And it just falls flat because it's so obvious that someone in marketing or someone in the executive team said, hey, I see this all the time on my Instagram reels, go do something with it. And not enough people are asking, well, should we do we have a message to share that would actually resonate and hit our target market and things like that? To Jen's point, you're probably not gonna be able to do something like that and have it resonate in your market if you're just trying to force it. The companies that I see tying into those types of trends and doing it in a really smart way, companies like Trainual, they're an office or an organizational software system, I believe. They actually used the software Cameo to get all of the cast members of The Office, the television show, to do like a little pitch for them about how they would use Trainual in The Office. That's really smart marketing. Really smart. Super well done. Blew up on LinkedIn for sure. And Jonathan Ronzio is, I believe, their head of marketing over there and one of their co-founders, and just a really smart marketer in asking the question, I know we can, but should we? And here's how we can tap into pop culture in a really smart way. As far as us, to go back and answer your direct question to us, Monty, we here at The Receptionist are trying to tap into people who are influential in the space. And so, influencer culture was really a big thing probably 8 years ago, but there are people that have a voice who are trusted in our target market and the people who are listening to their podcasts or following them on their social media or a part of their groups on Facebook. Groups are still a thing for a lot of our target market, being administrative assistants, executive assistants, things like that. And so if we can partner with them in a really smart way, if we can provide value to them, those hosts of those shows or those leaders of those groups, and bring something to it where it's just not so obviously a marketing tactic to try and get leads or fill our pipelines, like what I was saying earlier, the meme culture is sometimes, then we've seen some success there in reaching a larger market.
I think that's really some brilliant insight. Can we, should we, I think is definitely a question that we should all be asking as marketers. But Sarah, why don't you share, what's your thoughts on that? And then the kind of strategies that you guys have found successful?
Yeah, so when Jen was talking about humor, I work for a construction company, and you can't really use a whole lot of humor in construction. I mean, there are things that we could play into a little bit, but it's just not our go-to. But what we have done is what Travis said, is we've started injecting personality into our post. Before and most of what all the competitors do, it's like you just see a finished polished building or a product at the end. You don't get to see any of the story, anything along the way if it's not a finished product. And so what some of the strategies I've used is really starting at the beginning, covering a groundbreaking event, showing the project throughout, and then also at the end, if there's a ribbon cutting, making sure we cover those events and share them. And I know it sounds so simple, but it's just not something that was really done in the construction industry across their social media. Everything is just very polished. Nothing is messy or anything, so that's what we've used to try to, inject personality throughout our social media. And then as far as growing our audience, we have started using partnerships with different architects and different clients of ours, and tagging them in other social media posts if it's a project or if it pertains to them, and they're commenting on our stuff, we're commenting back, we're kind of doing a tradesy. And we've done it with some of our subcontractors and vendors as well, where they started tagging us and stuff, so we tag back, and it's a very partnership, relationship based, and it's really working. We've seen tremendous growth over the last year implementing that strategy.
The way these platforms work from a social media standpoint, what I've found in working on all of them is they all are very similar, right? In how their algorithms work in terms of getting views to your content, having early engagement, having people either putting likes and comments and stuff like that. That has to be across all these platforms, right? These platforms want to know that people like your content and they're engaging it. So when we're talking about viral content can mean different things to different people, right? The traditional sense of viral content is, I got millions of views and stuff like that. But when you put it down into the companies that we're working with, your guys' companies and stuff like that, that could mean, well, I typically get like 1,000 views, but this particular post or whatever, I got 25,000. Right? That could be, because it's dramatically different from what you typically do before. So can you guys speak to what you feel like is viral content, if you would, within your own brands? And what does that do for your brand when that happens? Like, do you capitalize on that? Is it something that you work towards doing more of for a specific reason? Travis, you want to start us off again?
Yeah, absolutely. So viewership wise, I'm just going to use LinkedIn because it's pretty much my primary source for marketing. Viral for us is probably one of our posts getting about 15 to 20,000 impressions. It doesn't really, the nature of our business is just very different than most. So there's no ROI for really anything that a telecommunications company posts on social media. It's really just for warming up the brand for when you finally get people like on a demo or on a call. So, what I've been doing is anything that kind of hits a little bit more than our other content, kind of repackaging it, cutting it up into maybe a couple different other pieces, posting it on a couple other platforms. And then, if we have one thing perform, let's say this month, I'll I'll kind of reattack that same topic. I won't say the exact same things, but I'll wait like another month or two, and I'll talk about it again. Yeah, so yeah, pretty much everything that I do on the branding side, it's really it's it's to kind of to warm up any kind of calls that we have or partnerships that are coming. Uh, Sales cycles in telecommunications are astronomically long, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. Uh, we had one account that took us, 3 years to finally close, and that's just because in telecommunications, especially on the enterprise side, a lot of these guys are in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year contracts. So it it ex, I found that expos kind of are where we gain our most traction, and the biggest thing I hear from expos is whether I'm doing a panel or just walking around, people will reference a post that we did 2 months ago that I know it performed well because I can see all the analytics, but just kind of just gives me the validation that what we're doing is working. Yeah, telco is just such a big beast. It's different than probably most others, and I can get away with a lot more personality behind the brands. And I talk a lot about mental health, and so that has allowed me to make connections with people that, hey, I saw you post about anxiety, I saw you post about depression. I have Tourette's, so I post about that a lot. Getting those one-on-one connections just build up through my marketing, and then we can start talking about product. I try to learn people first, and maybe 6 months later we finally start talking about product. So that's kind of how it works in my space. Then that's what works for us. So you find viral stuff and just kind of build.
I think it's great. Jen, you're in a space again that's kind of locked down by a lot of regulation and stuff, and just by nature of the space. Like I said, you're not going to use a lot of humor. You're not going to. Is there anything that you have found to be effective that, I know we all have a desire to increase following for our brands. We all want to increase that brand awareness out there. Some forms of viral content can help assist that, right? But have you found anything that's been effective for you in that space?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I moved from the world's largest law firm 2 years ago to a very small New York law firm, which is still considered, mid-sized, but it's a completely different scale. I mean, totally different scale. So not only do we not have like a whole external PR firm and PR team and communications and media and digital, I had all of that at my prior firm, and they were the experts, and they sort of ran with our messaging from the marketing side and turned it into some cool things. But like I said earlier, it's limited. It's law firms. You're not going to get general counsel clicking on a LinkedIn post and then being like, oh, I think I should hire them for our next $20 million lawsuit against some giant, healthcare industry or something. It's just not how it works. But on our little on our little micro level at our firm, which is very old school. Well, I'll just leave it at that. We would post the articles that our authors would write. Our attorneys tend to push out a lot of content, whether it's thought leadership, an analysis, or it's just a quick summary of a legal decision or a regulatory update, kind of this is what happened, and every law firm puts out the exact same stuff, as if they're the only ones that are going to cover the latest, Third Circuit decision on some something, you know. So whoever gets to it first or whoever makes it more punchy can get more clicks. I mean, you're relying on attorneys in your firm to develop their networks on LinkedIn to push it out. Very few people are going to follow a law firm. They're going to follow their attorney or their friend from law school or their neighbor, you know, who your kids play soccer together and you chit chat about business on the sidelines. You know, so you're going to follow individual lawyers, but nobody follows the firm pages that much. It's just not that cool, except for law school students who are looking for a job. So we're not marketing to them, but we do want to make sure that law school students see our posts and want to get a sense of our culture, because that's how they choose what firm they want to go to. And for us, I decided that, you know, we could do a little bit of video. Like, we just got these new offices. They're beautiful, overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge in Lower Manhattan and the harbor, and it's just gorgeous. And why not do a couple of short video clips, even if it's not original content that they're coming up with, but rather the partners are summarizing their articles in like less than 2 minutes so that somebody doesn't have to read a 3,000 word article with footnotes and legal citations.
Yeah.
And that went through the roof. We found that video on LinkedIn from our little firm blew every other post out of the water. And I'm talking about like tax issues. Like, people were clicking and watching the video about tax stuff.
That's awesome.
So we have a great tax partner. She's new last year. She's very conversational. She's got cool frizzy hair and she just talks tax and it's going over great. So we started doing Q&A conversations with our cannabis lawyer, because that's also kind of sexy too for social media. And now it's started to really take off within the firm. So partners are all interested. I want to do a video clip. I want to do a podcast clip. So we're getting more clicks. We're getting more engagement from my internal clients, which are the partners of the law firm. And by extension, they feel good about sharing it, which is all I care about, because I don't have my hands on their contacts. They do. And as a marketer, it's frustrating. You want to manage all of their mailing lists and contacts, but you know, law firms are different. They're partnerships. They're not corporations. There's very few mandates as far as CRM goes. But having them love the content so much that they're pushing it out, then like my job is done. Like, great. We're set.
That is so well said. And I think one of the main benefits to content, once you find a path that people are really interested in and engaging, right, from that virality standpoint, they're going to share it. And which is, you know, viral. That's what happens, right? You share it. And I think that is a major component of it. Michael, Sarah actually talked about, you know, having some partnerships, if you would, with like-minded companies, people within their office, so to speak, that specifically will come and engage their content to try and get it out there more. Jen just talked about, she landed on some video content that worked really well. What's your thoughts about having specific companies or people that will engage your content when you put it out there, because you know that activates the algorithm and gets your content out further? And what are the specific things, like what Jen found, that you guys have done that has created that viral aspect of it to get people to share it?
I'll be honest. We don't do anything like that in terms of like getting other companies or even our staff to go and like and repost stuff. We do ask them to do that, but that's not a huge focus of ours. And we are a company in marketing that does we try to inject a lot of humor. I mean, the amount of wigs that I have alone in my closet, just from all the different costumes that I wear and in the videos that we put out there on social media. I'm trying to produce our brand here. Our live demos, for instance, our sales director and I his name's Tom Foster. We always have a theme of a costume that we wear in those live demos. So we've been Slash and Axl Rose. We've been Harry and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber. Just so many different. And then we take those, we clip those. Of course, we try to share those out. We're really trying to figure out what going viral means and looks for us as we really invest heavily in vertical video, YouTube shorts, Instagram reels. We're doing a lot there and trying to see what hits, what can we do to use the humor of who we are as a company and the silliness of, I'm willing to be an idiot on camera. So if that helps kind of drive the algorithm, I'm all for it. I will say perhaps a different way of going viral for us has been when a customer is in a group of our core audience. So one of our core audiences is behavioral health practices, small private practices, and they are all in some sort of massive group on Facebook or on other platforms. Anytime a customer of ours, not by our volition, goes and posts about us in those channels, massive virality. I mean, I can sit there and look at our web analytics of where those referral sources are coming from. Facebook. I mean, just constant. Whenever a customer of ours is excited enough about our product, happy enough about our product and our service, that they go and post about us. And so my, I guess, goal as the marketing director is, how do I make sure that everyone in this company understands that you are a part of the marketing team? The customer service that you provide, the product that you build, it all contributes to that customer. When somebody asks, hey, does anyone have an idea of a system that I can use to check in my clients at my office? That our customer goes, absolutely. It's the receptionist. You got to try them out. I love them. Great product, incredible service. Like, that's what we want. That's viral for us. We're trying to figure out the other stuff that we can do, but that's viral for us.
I think that's brilliant insight, Michael. Getting your customers to share testimonials and how you guys work is absolutely it's just such golden nuggets, when that happens.
It's our number one source of leads and traffic to our site, or referrals, or people have used our product and come to our website directly.
It's like the holy grail there. Sarah, how do you, do you kind of take the same approach? I know the construction industry can be very different, right? I mean, it's, getting people to interact and respond. But have you found something that works for you? I know you've got people that you're having and partnerships that are coming and commenting on the content. Have you found anything that particularly has been different, that kind of elevates your brand and gets you out in front of more eyes?
Yeah, so video has been a huge factor for us, and specifically drone videos, because you can just capture the overall site of a construction site better, and it looks nicer. You can see the city in the background, and drone videos have been huge for us, so much that just this week I've had 4 of our partners and some of our customers reaching out to us saying, hey, we need access to this drone video because we want to put it on all of our stuff. So it's been huge for us, and being able to see our clients are like, oh, they're showing off my project, and I need to put that out there too. I think that's huge, because it's just putting our brand back in their face again and again. And I just did a content analysis of all of our content and how it performed for 23, and the drone videos were by far the biggest. And every time I'm posting these drone videos, I'm tagging our architect, I'm tagging our client if I can. Some don't want it, all those NDAs with construction, but I'm tagging as many people as I can, because they all want to see it. They all try to repost it so that they can show off their product. One of our partners that we use for carpentry a lot, they specifically will repost it and say, okay, do you see at this timestamp, this is IBC, this is our work, this is what we're doing. So it's really been huge for us. And they didn't really have a video strategy before I came on, but At my last place, it was huge. And I was like, we've got to do this. I mean, you're building great buildings. You're building Kansas City. We've got to show it off.
I'll watch a drone video all day,
All
every
day.
day. I love drone videos. So kudos to you, Sarah.
You know, there's two things like that really get me. One are the drone videos. The other are the time lapse. I love watching time lapse videos.
For sure. I dig it too.
So I don't know if you guys saw, at one point there was some time lapse videos of a guy. It looked like he was in the jungle, right? And he would dig a hole and he would make this like house just out of the ground. It had like a pool in it and everything else. Did you see those, Jen? Those were absolutely amazing.
My kids and I were addicted to them. He built like 20 of them. Houses with like little pools and
it was really crazy. All with very primitive tools. You know, it's a bunch of clay and everything else, which kind of gets to the point that, you know, content can really be anything. And you guys have talked about now a number of different types of content that has been working for you really well, right? And for specific reasons. When you find that, when you kind of land on something that you go, oh, this really works. I think it was either Travis or Michael, I can't remember which of you were talking about repurposing that content over and then using it again. When you find something like that, do you come back to it after a period of time, run it again? Do you get the same kind of effect from it? And do you change it up at all, like adding different call to actions? Or once you find something that's working, then how do you maximize it? Travis, can you respond to that?
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, you know, what I'll do is, you know, if we have one piece that kind of works better over the others, I'll figure out, you know, first I'll take that piece. Let's say I post it on LinkedIn. I'll then cut it up, post it as a YouTube short, or post it as a very quick TikTok video, and maybe like if it's long form, turn it into short form, post it on Twitter. Those have worked well for us. In my industry, they kind of run their course. So one thing that does very, very well may only work an additional 1 to 2 other times as a repurposed material. But that then helps us know, okay, what can we start moving the goal of our future marketing pieces towards? This worked, A worked over B, but C worked over both A and B combined. And so, you know, that's what I'll do. I'll just I'll take something that works, cut it up.
So you'll kind of split test different pieces and components that are working well. Do you have a framework for how long in between you might repurpose something? So like if you have something that goes really well today, you get a ton of views on it. Will you wait a specific amount of time, or do you continually test that before you'll?
Yeah, generally I'll wait about a month to really, you know, and that, at least in my industry, that kind of shows, okay, was this just a fluke? And you know, it was good in the moment. You know, I'll wait a month. Month is usually my minimum. I won't do it before that. And then, you know, if it performs well a month later, then that kind of tells me, okay, it wasn't a fluke. This is actually content people want to see. They want to hear it. And then trying to recreate that. So it's not technically the same exact message. You know, word things differently. Maybe I'll use video rather than just a copy. You know, let's say a long form piece works well for us. A month later, I'll turn that into maybe a longer video. And then if that works, I'll probably use it another month later, but I typically don't use the same content more than 3 times. It usually just kind of falls off a cliff in the telecom industry. Technology changes so quickly that people like things that are fresh, and they don't want to see the same exact content too many times and in too short of a period.
Michael, what's your thoughts about repurposing?
Repurposing, love it. Definitely do it. I'm an admitted shiny object chaser. So I have a tendency and have had a tendency to, launch the campaign, use the content up as we had planned, and move on to the next shiny new thing that we can put out there. And I literally just had this conversation right before we went on break for the holidays with our creative manager, who kind of brought it up. He's like, hey, we put a lot of effort into those things that we produced a year and a half ago. Can we reuse those again? Like, so that it wasn't just like this one-time shot in the dark that we threw out there. And he made a great point, like definitely exposed a blind spot for me. I'm off chasing the next thing. So I would say in terms of repurposing, yeah, we're doing that a lot with our podcasts, with our videos, with our content that we're producing from our campaigns. But going back into time and pulling forward some of those assets that we've used in the past that have worked well, we've got to do a better job of that, I think.
Fantastic. Jen, let's talk about the platforms a little bit. There's all kinds of social platforms. You've got your websites. You've got, all kinds of areas that you guys are putting content out to, I imagine. In terms of your strategy for which platforms you would use and why, can you kind of walk us through, and I'd like Sarah to follow up on this too, of where have you found your target market to live the most? How much attention do you put into the specific platform? Do you repurpose that content for those specific platforms, and do they change? Can you walk us through your strategy there? And then Sarah, I'd like you to come back to that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our content is all virtually the same thing. They're legal advisories, they're updates, they're articles on, like I mentioned before, changes in the law, a decision, a regulatory update, or some sort of interstitial analysis, affecting clients. So we're not, we don't have a lot of different things. We are now doing video clips on those and summaries. We're doing some short podcast clips on those elements as well. But the content doesn't really change. We're not, there's no song and dance there. It's all very sort of like one-dimensional. But the platforms matter because we can't rely on LinkedIn, for example, for the reason that nobody is going to follow our law firm and hire our lawyers. People hire lawyers, not law firms. They might hire a name and then a lawyer for that, which is, valuable, especially for a firm like ours. We've been around for literally 170 years, but we're not, one of these gargantuan firms. We have syndication platforms that we use that lawyers in particular, in-house counsel from companies, use to search information. Look, everybody wants free legal advice. Nobody wants to pay $5, $6, $8, $1,200 an hour, $1,500 an hour, $2,000 an hour. Like even the wealthiest companies don't want to do that. So their second best thing is to search platforms that syndicate law firm content. So these are much narrower. You guys wouldn't have heard of them because they just wouldn't. There was no reason to, right? They're mostly in-house counsel or, referral law firms looking at it. Mondac, Lexology, JD Supra. So we pay those platforms to syndicate our content. And it's huge. I'm not good at math, which is why I'm in legal marketing, but I can tell you that there's been an enormous increase in readership and conversions and clicks to our website and to our attorney biographies from when I started and we got these articles syndicated. So that's been huge for us. We stay away from the standard social media platforms other than very sort of one-dimensional, posts of reposts of content. But there's other smaller organizations, membership organizations, bar associations, publications that are, in your industries, they might be trade publications. In legal, there's sometimes lobbying groups associated with a state, for example, or like I said, a bar association. There's a few legal referral networking organizations, and they all have websites and listservs and like practice groups that they are all able to push that content out to. And so we selectively choose which of those platforms to push our content to. It's time consuming. They don't get everything. Sure. We're not going to send, an international law firm referral membership organization, necessarily some of our land use articles on New York property owners for, some city statute. An Italian law firm in Milan is like, yeah, maybe they might have a client with a property that they own in New York City, but like, it would be a waste for us to push our content like that. So we want to be more selective about how we choose what platforms get what content. And, that's a time consuming job, but we're grateful for the opportunity to get our content out, especially if it's free. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Mondac, JD Super, and Lexology can be very expensive, but it's kind of worth it. But beyond that, it's more granular, and the price that we pay is just, my and my staff's time in selecting and pushing out that content.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to that issue after we hear from Sarah on this about, using specific, maybe what we would call influencers or influencer platforms and stuff. But Sarah, would you mind sharing with us, what's your guys' approach to the platforms and what you guys do in your strategy?
For us, overall, LinkedIn is our biggest platform that we focus on. We've seen the most growth in it in the last year, and we are connecting with the right types of people because at the end of the day, we're selling to business owners, architects, owners' representatives, and that spans a lot of different industries because we play in 8 different markets of construction. So LinkedIn has been the most overall that we've seen. Now, to grow with the architects, we have seen more growth on Instagram. They like pretty things. They want to post, their pretty artistic photos of the pretty projects they designed. So we have been able to connect with more architects on Instagram than we have any other platform. So we kind of, for our strategy, we play towards who we're marketing to because we are marketing to a variety of different people. We're trying to connect with business owners on LinkedIn. We're trying to connect with architects on Instagram. And then, on the hiring aspect, we really try to show our personality and our culture on Facebook because there's a lot of, superintendents and construction workers and tradespeople that don't have a LinkedIn. They don't play with Instagram. So we have to keep our Facebook alive so that they can see us and us as a company. So we kind of have to divide and conquer our with across different platforms.
I love that you have different strategies for the different platforms, like using more of a personality approach on Facebook and stuff. I think that's very smart. Michael, let's jump into talking about influencer strategies. I think you mentioned a little bit about that. Do you guys use influencers? How do you use them? Has it been effective?
Yes, we use them. I'll get into how we use them, but yes, it's effective. It's incredibly so. In fact, we're launching a new vertical because our behavioral health influencer campaign, so to speak, has over the last couple of years has worked so well for us. And we sell to a lot of different potential buyers. So our visitor check-in software can pretty much be in place at any office that takes in visitors or guests or contractors or what have you. So our total addressable market is very large, but there are some places and spaces where our sales cycle is very short. They use the heck out of the product and they absolutely love us and they talk about us a lot. And behavioral health was one of those. We're moving into the finance space here in 2024 as well, because they're another similar private practice type of setup to a behavioral health office, right? And we've used several influencers in that space, and we will in the finance space here in 2024. And primarily what we found, the best inroads to finding these influencers has been podcasting. If someone has a large influential podcast in the space, chances are they have a whole network that flows in behind that, as we found. So if a former private practice owner now is a podcaster and a private practice coach and runs their own private practice mastermind and group on Facebook or Circle or any other kind of membership platform, we can tap into those, not just with passive ad reads on their podcasts, but emails to their newsletter lists, social media posts on their social media, live events that they do to their communities and their groups. Having the backing of that influencer or that leader of that group has been so good for us in that space, so much so that we're duplicating it several times over now. So that's where I've started. I've started in the podcast space and let things trickle down from there. Some work better than others. The ROI on some is higher or better than others, but overall it's been a really solid strategy for us.
That's really fantastic. I would like to jump to Travis as well. Can you respond to Michael and what they're using for strategy? Have you been able to see the same effects, whether it be from podcasts or different influencers in the telecom space?
Yeah. So, like I keep saying, the telecom space is very different. We don't really have, we don't have influencers per se, but we do have people that are, they do hold a little bit more weight. I mean, I guess you would technically call them influencers, but I do utilize them sometimes only because I happen to be personal friends with most of the top voices in our industry. And that's kind of a product of my approach to how we were going to market in the telecom industry. So, about 3 or 4 years ago is when we really started to dive into that. And I kind of selfishly made it a point to seek out who are the top voices in telecommunications and how quickly can I become their friend. Unfortunately for them, I kind of bombarded them, talked to them a lot. I would find something that interested them and that also interested me and talk to a lot of them. And oddly enough, a lot of the people in my space all kind of come from Ohio. And so, I mean, if you're from Ohio, or if you know anything about college football, the Buckeyes are pretty much they're a statewide norm. Pretty much everybody in Ohio loves football. And so it kind of gave us a common ground to start off friendship. So, now it's one of those things where, luckily, and, hopefully if they're watching this, they don't start charging me, but it's one of those things that I kind of get for free. I'll just text them, hey, I need you to I'm going to send you something real quick, post it on your socials, have your company share it. That's and, awesome. It's kind of the reason why I started diving so much into doing the podcast too. So now whenever we post a podcast episode, I pretty much have all of my partners in the industry, which happen to be some of the larger in the industry. I have them reshare it. Yeah. So our podcast, the impressions on LinkedIn typically are relatively high. They are definitely our highest, 20,000 plus impressions. It's one of those things where I'm glad they're my friends, but I also kind of abuse that, and I use that as much as I can. I try not to be a too much of a pester, but yeah, it comes with my personality. I'm very very personal kind of person. I try to inject as much of who I am, like I said, less about product. I'm a father. I'm a hockey player. I like to play video games. So it's finding all those common grounds. I've been able to find a lot of friends. And luckily I've been able to use that to my advantage. So it's, I've got core group of the top people in the telco industry are texting me, and I'm texting them pretty much daily. So it's one of those things that a lot of others have had to kind of put a little bit more work towards, and counting my blessings, I haven't had to work too much at that. So it's just kind of been a natural fit for us.
So to kind of sum up our conversation here, because we're coming up at time, you guys have shared with me that viral content is important. And it's important for a number of reasons. One, brand awareness, getting your content in front of the right people at higher volume. It can actually drive more conversations to you and for your brand and for your marketing and sales teams, so to speak. It's not necessarily all about the views more than it is about the effect of what the content does, not only for the brand, but for the conversations that you make.
Bingo.
Is that kind of sum it up, if you would? And then the spaces in which you guys live, it's find those spaces where your target market lives, yes, but also find some people that can help influence that content on your behalf, whether that be influencers just in general, or particular industry spaces that exist, as Jen pointed out, excuse me, that can really help boost your brand. And then Michael provided some amazing insight in terms of how to get your customers / clients to get out there and actually share your content and post about you. And sometimes that can be the most effective viral content in itself. So did I miss anything? Do you guys want to share any last thoughts?
I would just say with everything that my co-guests have said, there's been an intentionality with everything. And as I kind of referenced earlier, the companies that are just trying to latch on to a cultural moment in time, just to your point, Monty, there, just to get a lot of views. None of us advocated for that.
Exactly.
It was all an intentionality of we as marketers, we have to understand our market. We have to understand what will play and what won't. In Jen's case, what are we legally able to do and not? But there's just a level of intentionality that's needed for this. Like there's going viral, and then there is spreading a message far and wide to the people that need to see it. And I think the best marketers bring that level of intentionality to it. And if things go viral, great, but we care about our target market and our customers first.
Marketing is all about strategy, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes we can get lucky on some things, but for the most part, it's pretty well defined. And with that consistency and working towards things that work, Travis talked about A/B split testing. It's always intentional what we're working towards. So well said, Michael. You guys, thank you very much for your expertise and insight that you've brought to the conversation today. I learned a ton from you guys. Thank you for being on the show.